Did the CIA have a hand in the murder of John F. Kennedy, an American president? And here's the reply we received verbatim. Quote, "The answer is yes. I believe they were involved. It's a whole different country from what we thought it was. It's all fake." Americans have trusted their government less with every passing year since the killing of John F. Kennedy.
People in authority will abuse every power that we relinquish to them.
What's up, guys? It's your boy, Benny. Absolute panic time for the deep state. Recent polling from our favorite pollster in America, Rich Barris, said the solid plurality of individuals say that the CIA played a role in the assassination of JFK, including 23% said it's very likely, and another 23% said it's at least somewhat likely. Only 31% say it's unlikely, and some people are unsure. What? Yikes. This is an absolute and total inversion of what people thought just a few years ago. So now more Americans are waking up than we've ever seen in American history. Among likely voters, a marginally higher plurality, 48%, say it's likely the CIA played a role in the assassination of JFK. Again, this is according to the Market Insights poll from Rich Barris, one of the best pollsters and most accurate pollsters in America. Interestingly and tellingly, those who said they are unsure if the CIA played a role in the assassination of JFK score high on social bias, meaning a significant percentage indicated that they are very uncomfortable revealing their political beliefs to pollsters. So effectively, the individuals who care the most about this country and who are the most confident in their political opinions are the ones who are saying, yeah, I mean, totally, the CIA had something against JFK and they may have pulled the trigger. Public trust in government, speaking of absolute assassinations, 1958 to 2022, trust in government remains exceedingly low. Only 2 in 10 Americans say they trust the government to do what is right. Just about always and most of the time. This according to Pew Research Center. Check out these graphs and these lines, how it just absolutely collapses over time. You have sort of the high watermark for John F. Kennedy for trust in government. And then as soon as they did Kennedy dirty, because of course Kennedy wanted to cut their budgets and he wanted to, and I quote, splinter the CIA into 1,000 pieces. Well, now you have the absolute and total decline. You had a little bit of a bump up during the Cold War, the height of the Cold War there with Reagan, a little bit of a bump up with George W. Bush and Clinton as the American century sort of hit its zenith in the late 90s. And then with Bush, you saw a decline that never recovered. Absolute and total collapse. And here with Joe Biden, it's getting worse than ever. Check this out. Only 9% faith in government from Republicans now, today. And then you have 29% with Democrats. That's with Joe Biden as president. So you can see here by party, the absolute, complete, and total inversion. And it didn't used to be that way. Right? You can see back here with Kennedy that you had 73% and 80% Democrat and Republican back here during the Kennedy years, faith in their federal government, trust in their federal government. So this is panic time, right? Trust in federal government falls below majority for the first time. This is panic time for the deep state. The lies are being uncovered. Tucker Carlson went in and talked about this on his show recently, a CIA whistleblower saying that, yeah, of course the CIA had a hand in Kennedy's assassination because Kennedy was inconvenient for them. He didn't like the deep state. Kennedy, a military man himself, understood exactly how compromised America would be and how unconstitutional it was to have a government above our government. That's an unconstitutional government. And you are seeing that power abused day in and day out. Tucker Carlson speaking about this on his program earlier in the year, possibly leading to the results of this poll, certainly helping them out, where a plurality of registered voters say the CIA helped assassinate the president of the United States. How do you recover from that? Go.
Good evening and welcome to Tucker Carlson Tonight. So not long after Jack Ruby shot Lee Harvey Oswald on camera in the basement of Dallas Police Headquarters, a lot of Americans started to have some questions about the Kennedy assassination. It was, you'd have to admit, a pretty extraordinary sequence of events. A lone gunman murders the President of the United States, and then, less than 48 hours later, that lone gunman is himself murdered by another lone gunman. What are the odds of that? It's one thing if you get struck by lightning, rare but possible. But if every member of your family also gets struck by lightning all on different days, you might begin to suspect these are not entirely natural events. But oh, replied the U.S. government, they are. This bizarre chain of killings was all entirely natural. So less than a year after the JFK assassination, the Johnson White House released something called the Warren Commission Report. And the report concluded that while their motives remained unclear, both Lee Oswald and Jack Ruby had acted alone. No one helped them. There was no conspiracy of any kind. Case closed. Time to move on. And many Americans did move on. At the time, they had no idea how shoddy and corrupt the Warren Commission was. It would be nearly 50 years before the CIA admitted under duress that, in fact, it had withheld information from investigators about its relationship with Lee Harvey Oswald. But even then, at the time, before that was known, the government's explanation didn't seem entirely plausible, and some people started asking obvious questions about it. It was at that point, as Americans started to doubt the official story, that the term conspiracy theory entered our lexicon. As Professor Lance DeHaven Smith points out in his book on the subject, the term conspiracy theory did not exist as a phrase in everyday American conversation before 1964. In 1964, the year the Warren Commission issued its report, the New York Times published 5 stories in which conspiracy theory appeared. Now, today, of course, the term conspiracy theory appears in pretty much every New York Times story about American politics. It's wielded, now as then, as a weapon against anyone who asks questions the government doesn't feel like answering. But despite 60 years of name-calling, those questions have not disappeared. In fact, they have multiplied with time. And here's one of them. In April of 1964, a psychiatrist called Louis Joylan West visited Jack Ruby in his isolation cell in a Dallas jail. According to West's written assessment, he found that Jack Ruby was, quote, technically insane and in need of immediate psychiatric hospitalization. Those are conclusions that, puzzlingly, no one who had spoken to Jack Ruby previously had reached. Ruby had seemed perfectly sane to the people who knew him. Louis Joylan West pronounced him crazy. But what West did not say was that he was working for the CIA at the time. Louis Joylan West was a contract psychiatrist for the spy agency. He was also an expert on mind control and a prominent player in the now infamous MK-Ultra program, in which the CIA gave powerful psychiatric drugs to Americans without their knowledge. So of all the psychiatrists in the world, what in the world was this guy doing in Jack Ruby's prison cell? The media did not seem interested in finding out. In fact, the New York Times, in an extensive 1999 obituary of West, never mentioned the fact that he had worked for the CIA, much less his time in Jack Ruby's cell, which seems relevant. So you can see why non-crazy people would wonder about what really happened, and of course many have wondered. In 1976, long forgotten, the House of Representatives impaneled a special committee to reinvestigate the JFK assassination. Their bipartisan conclusion? Jack Kennedy was almost certainly murdered as the result of a conspiracy. But the question is, a conspiracy by whom? Well, the obvious suspect would be the CIA. Why else would the agency withhold critical evidence from investigators? Is there a benign explanation for that, for maintaining this level of secrecy for this many years? Not that we're aware of. And it is illegal. In 1992, Congress passed the President John F. Kennedy Assassination Records Collection Act. And that act mandated full disclosure of all documents by 2017, 54 years after JFK was killed. The last administration promised to comply fully with that law, but under intense pressure from CIA Director Mike Pompeo, withheld in the end thousands of pages of CIA documents. Today, this afternoon, the Biden administration did exactly the same thing. That would be thousands of pages of documents after nearly 60 years, after the death of every single person involved. But we still can't see them. Clearly, it's not to protect any person. They're all dead. It's to protect an institution. But why? Well, today we decided to find out. We spoke to someone who had access to these still hidden CIA documents, a person who was deeply familiar with what they contain. We asked this person directly, did the CIA have a hand in the murder of John F. Kennedy, an American president? And here's the reply we received verbatim. Quote, the answer is yes. I believe they were involved. It's a whole different country from what we thought it was. It's all fake. It's hard to imagine a more jarring response than that. Again, this is not a, quote, conspiracy theorist that we spoke to. Not even close. This is someone with direct knowledge of the information that once again is being withheld from the American public. And the answer we received was unequivocal. Yes, the CIA was involved in the assassination of the president. Now, some people will not be surprised to hear that. They suspected it all along. But no matter how you feel about or what you thought about the Kennedy assassination, pause to consider what this means. It means that within the U.S. government, there are forces wholly beyond democratic control. These forces are more powerful than the elected officials that supposedly oversee them. These forces can affect election outcomes. They can even hide their complicity in the murder of an American president. In other words, they can do pretty much anything they want. They constitute a government within a government, mocking by their very existence the idea of democracy. As cynical as we have become after 30 years of watching government officials ignore the voters who employ them, we were shocked to learn this. It's not acceptable. Americans have trusted their government less with every passing year since the killing of John F. Kennedy. Maybe this is why. And people have known this for a long time. The people who knew would include every director of the CIA since November of 1963. And that list would include Obama's CIA director, John Brennan, one of the most sinister and dishonest figures in American life. That list would also include, we are sad to say, our friend Mike Pompeo, who ran the CIA in the last administration. Mike Pompeo knew this. We asked Pompeo to join us tonight, and though he rarely turns down a televised interview, he refused to come. We hope he will reconsider.
Thank you for watching. Our channel is here to meme the libs until they cry and then to meme them crying. Their tears, they taste just like sweet, delicious ice cream. Salty, too. We ridicule the establishment and the libs because of you. Your support keeps us going. So if you like what you saw, please punch the subscribe button, click like, and ring the little bell so that you know when we're live. Don't you want to know when we're live? And make sure that you subscribe to our email list just in case the plug gets pulled, as tends to happen. If you want to see more of our videos, click here or here. My name is Benny Johnson. Stay free, Base Patriots.